quite mild here. Temperatures not dropping a huge amount. Markedly colder, though, across northern parts of Scotland where we have clear skies. As a result, a relatively harsh frost in some places, and also some icy stretches to watch out for. Could cause some problems on the roads first thing tomorrow morning. Otherwise, as we go through tomorrow morning, well, it's a bright, cold, icy start across northern Scotland, across western, southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England and Wales. A wet start with that front pushing its way in, and then another front's coming up from the south, so it could be quite a bit of rain across southern counties as you're heading out the door tomorrow morning, and that rain then pushes its way northeastwards across much of central and eastern parts of southern England as well. Some of that rain could be quite heavy as we go through the day. It could cause some localised flooding in a few spots. That front towards the northwest also makes its way south and eastwards across other parts of England and Wales, with something a bit cooler coming in from the northwest. Not as cold as last week, but nonetheless a chillier feel compared to today. Then after a cold and quite widely frosty start to the day tomorrow, it is actually looking largely fine. Lots of bright, sunny weather to be had through the bulk of the day, but there's another system coming in from the west, and that's going to bring some cloud and rain as we go later on. Now, on Thursday, there's a potential for a deep area of low pressure to push in, so that could bring some very strong winds and heavy rain.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M8, traffic is restricted eastbound at junction 24 after a broken down vehicle. In Merseyside, the A5036 southbound between the M57 and the A5038 is heavy with congestion and around 10 minutes of delays. In Sheffield, the M1 southbound entry slip at junction 35 is closed after a vehicle left the carriageway. There are also long delays on Northamptonshire's M1 northbound between junction 16 and junction 18, with 3 lanes closed after a crash. And on the trains, Great Western Railway has rail replacement buses, while Greater Anglia is disrupted. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Very, very good evening to you. Welcome to Farage Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Coming up on tonight's show.
Today, I can announce to the House that this offence will be brought into force this week.
Astonishingly, the Labour government has chosen all-out war with the United States over X's controversial AI tool Grok that can generate sexually explicit deepfakes. But the last time they went to war with Elon Musk, it didn't end well. Plus, on tonight's show...
Britain needs reform. Britain needs Nigel Farage as Prime Minister.
Yes, as the former Tory Chancellor Nadim Zahawi defects the reform and backs Nigel Farage as Britain's next Prime Minister. Tonight, I'll be asking Reform UK Chairman David Bull, Dr David Bull, if this was the right decision. And meanwhile...
I think we should just dwell on the fact that London is comparatively safe globally as well. That's because of the fantastic work we've done targeting the most dangerous criminals.
Yes, as brand new data out today reveals that London's homicides have reached an 11-year low, we'll reveal the true story that proves London is broken. Plus...
It is British to be diverse. The next election is going to be about a question of what is it to be British? And I believe to be British is to be compassionate, reasonable, live and let live, and diverse.
Diversity is always the mantra, but tonight we'll reveal on Farage the most comprehensive migrant crime research that has ever been conducted. In the UK, last year alone, 170,000 migrants were arrested, according to this bombshell study. That's 1 every 3 minutes. That's all to come on tonight's show, but first, here's your latest news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 7:01. Technology Secretary Liz Kendall says no woman or child should live in fear of having their images manipulated by technology. That's as she announced that creating non-consensual intimate images will be made a criminal offence this week. Speaking in the House of Commons, Liz Kendall said the creation of these images is child sexual abuse, adding that lives have been devastated by this content. The intervention comes as Britain's media regulator Ofcom has launched a formal investigation into X over claims its AI tool Grok is being used to generate sexualised images of women and children. Ofcom says it gave the company a deadline to explain how it's protecting UK users and has now fast-tracked a probe into whether it's breaking the Online Safety Act. The Technology Secretary said sexualised images created by the AI chatbot are weapons of abuse.
Sharing intimate images without someone's consent or threatening to share them, including images of people in their underwear, is a criminal offence for individuals and for platforms. The Data Act, passed last year, made it a criminal offence to create or request the creation of non-consensual intimate images. And today, I can announce to the House that this offence will be brought into force this week.
Elsewhere today, former Conservative Chancellor Nadim Zahawi has defected to Reform UK, declaring Britain is drinking at the Last Chance saloon. Standing alongside Nigel Farage in London, Mr Zahawi said the country really does need Farage as Prime Minister to put it back from what he called a dark and dangerous chapter. Mr Farage hailed the move as proof that Reform UK is not a one-man band. Well, the Conservative Party has hit back, calling Mr Zahawi a has-been, while Labour Party Chair Anna Turley described him as a discredited politician. To the Middle East, where Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper has spoken to authorities in Iran, saying that the Iranian government must immediately end this violence. It comes as the country is entering a third week of unrest, with a rising death toll and the regime tightening its grip on nationwide protests. Human rights groups say at least 544 people have been killed and more than 10,000 arrested as protests harden into open defiance of the supreme leader. The Foreign Secretary went on to say that the killing and brutal repression of peaceful protesters in Iran is horrific. President Trump says he wants Iran to negotiate, but once he hasn't ruled out military action, with the White House now weighing what it calls very strong options. Inside Iran, an internet blackout continues. In the last few moments, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has said that Iran is sending different messages to the US than those in public, adding that President Trump is not afraid to use military force on Iran, but does want diplomacy. More on those breaking comments shortly. And tens of thousands of people across Sussex and Kent have started the week without running water after Kent County Council declared a major incident. South East Water blames Storm Goretti, freezing weather and a power failure at a pumping station, with 14 postcodes still dry around East Grinstead, Frant and Tunbridge Wells. Schools, libraries and even parts of the local hospital have been forced to shut, with bottled water being handed out to keep essential services running. Local MP Mike Martin says the situation is bizarre, warning that the water company must now get a grip. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Martin.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Thank you, Katie. Welcome back to Farage Tonight. Your host, Martin Dorman. Now, moments ago, the government opted for the nuclear button in its war with Elon Musk's platform X, regarding, of course, its controversial AI-generated sexually explicit images.
Today, I can announce to the House that this offence will be brought into force this week.
But the last institution to go after American social media firms was the European Union, and it resulted in its visa bans, sanctions and a full-blown diplomatic and trade war. So could this jeopardise a £31 billion US-UK tech prosperity deal that is currently in limbo? We're discussing that later in the show. But first, here was the moment earlier on today, the shocking moment when the former Tory Chancellor Nadim Zahawi defected to Reform UK.
Even if you don't yet realise that Britain needs reform, you know in your heart of hearts that our wonderful country is sick. How many of you at home have thought to yourselves that nothing works today? I know I have, and I have it a damn sight easier than most people. That is why I'm standing here today as the newest member of Reform UK.
It's the highest profile defection to date, but was welcoming yet another former Tory minister. The right decision for the party that's been leading every single poll for the best part of a year. Well, I'm joined now in the studio, I'm delighted to say, by the chairman of Reform UK, Dr David Bull, as well as my usual arguing partner on Mondays, as GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. Dr David Bull, I shall start with you.
Please
Tell us why you believe that Nadim Zahawi is a great addition to the Reform team.
Well, look, Martin, since I took over as chairman, I am professionalising the party. We have gone from 90,000 members to 271,000 members. As you know, we are strengthening the team. We now have branches, 450 branches around the country. And the point is that we want the best and the brightest. In terms of defections, we have 5 members of parliament. In terms of defections, we are taking people from across the political spectrum, as long as you subscribe to our values and that you understand the mission that we're in. And Nadim is a fantastic addition to that team. One of the accusations which has been levelled at us, and I think it is fair actually, whilst we have brilliant people with great experience in many different walks of life, do we have experience of running the country and being in government? And the answer to that is no. And that's the reason why actually the defection of Danny Kruger is so important in terms of preparing for government. And that's why actually Nadim coming over is absolutely brilliant. So as we go into the next phase of what we're doing, and of course May the 7th is going to be very important in terms of Wales and Scotland and actually the elections in London as well, we have to prove that we're competent, not only just running local councils, but we're actually going to be competent in government as well. What we have to do is defeat the blob, make sure the civil service works for the elected politicians, and people like Nadim will be absolutely brilliant at that. Remember, he's an absolutely fantastic businessman. He set up YouGov, so he knows what he's talking about. He was Chancellor. This is a man who knows how politics work, and he will strengthen our team going forward.
Much was made today in the press conference. And by the way, a very long press conference. It's actually good to see Reform UK taking so many questions, I think, from the media, even when they're hostile. Lots of exhumation, archaeology of tweets between the two in the past where Nigel Farage is racist. Apparently, Nadim Zahawi said a comment that Goebbels would be proud of. But also on some policy points, of course, people are rummaging through what Nadim Zahawi stood for in the past, as well as some Reform voters, the base, being a little bit unhappy about lockdown stances and vaccine rollout. Let's talk for one specific thing which leapt out at me in 2013. as part of the number 10 policy unit, the immigration amnesty proposed by Nadim Zahawi, allowing illegal immigrants to work and to claim benefits, a policy so woke even David Cameron rejected it.
Yeah, sure. But it's OK to have ideas and to actually throw them around. It was rejected and it was a long time ago. In terms of those tweets, though, that was 2015. We were in the middle of an election and people say things because they're tribal politicians. But just in terms of the vaccine rollout, and I just want to be very clear about this, Nadim was tasked with rolling out the vaccine. It was a logistical exercise and he did it with aplomb. And the reason, and you know this because we served in the European Parliament together, the reason that vaccine rollout worked so efficiently and well is because we had left the European Union. If we had not done that, we would not have been able to roll that vaccine out. Now, actually, in terms of looking at who should be vaccinated, that is an entirely different question. And that was down to Vallance and Whitty and those people that made those decisions. And I would argue that actually they got those calls wrong. But actually what Nadim Zahawi did, I think, is admirable. What he did, he was tasked to roll out that vaccine, and he did it very well indeed.
Elsewhere, there's been much made, of course, of Nadim Zahawi's business background. We hear Nick Candy helped to be the bridge into the party. Fundraising will be a vital part of his role, and also the ability to be taken seriously in the city.
Yes. Absolutely right. And of course, these things are very important because as we grow, and we are a movement built from the ground up, and that is the whole point of what I've been doing. Going around the country, I've seen 5,000-6,000 people in working men's clubs across the country, in Labour, tribally Labour areas. Let's look at Liverpool. Liverpool got 80% of the vote went to Labour at the last election. They're down to 40%. We're polling at 32%. In Liverpool. So something enormous is happening on the ground. But what we have to prove is that actually we are competent when and if we get those seats, anything between 271 and 450 seats, we are ready to govern this country. And that is why these sort of people coming across to the party is really important.
Nigel Nelson.
Yeah, you mentioned values, David,
yes.
that Nadim will actually follow reform values. I mean, certainly he hasn't in the past, that as Education Secretary, he championed climate change initiatives, which is not something that your party goes along with. He's also championed trans rights for kids. He put up an idea about how you might accommodate them in schools. These are not what you would call standard reform policies by any means.
No, not at all. But it's OK to change your mind. And the fact is that we will only take people who subscribe to our values and our policies. Nigel made that very clear indeed. Nadine said today at the press conference, I was there, actually it was so brilliant, because when he walked through the door, there was an audible gasp from the journalists. I don't think anyone expected someone of his calibre to defect to us. But what it does show is, and he said this is the last chance saloon to save the United Kingdom. And I actually believe that passionately, because I didn't need to do this job. I am doing this job because I do believe it's important, and I can see the mess the country is in. The fact is, Keir Starmer has no ideology, no idea. He's out of time, out of his depth, and he should be out of office as well.
Do you not think that you may end up being accused of being sort of Tories 2.0 on the basis that you keep taking Tories, and I don't quite what number chairman that Nadim comes out as, but you've had Jonathan Gullis, Jake Berry. It feels
but
like
they're members.
It feels like you're taking in a load of failed Tories who come along and then rubbish their previous party, yet they were part of the Tory failure in government.
So I am very mindful of this. It's my biggest worry that we don't turn into the Tory Party 2.0. In fact, I've just done a training exercise. I trained 200 candidates over the weekend. Many of those are former Labour voters, or indeed they've worked for the Labour Party, who have also come across. So we are taking people from across the political spectrum. And that's really important to me. But I have said to Nigel, we are very mindful we do not turn into the Tory Party 2.0. You have to subscribe to the values. You have to believe that we can be a strong independent country, free from the European Union. Actually, one of the biggest problems is we never Brexited. We never Brexited properly. And that is a travesty, because what we need to do is put this country back where it belongs to make it a great United Kingdom.
Dr. Bull, a lot of people are saying, when are we going to see another Conservative defect? But you recall the Brexit Party, the huge success of the Brexit Party, in my opinion, was it had that allegiance of people from the left people from the
Agreed.
right. There was a former communist in Claire Fox.
Yes,
I voted for the Labour Party for 20 years. We had a broad church. When can we expect somebody from the Labour Party to cross the floor?
Imminently.
Imminently.
I can't say any more, Martin. You know, the whole point is we're keeping our cards dry. But there are many people coming across at local level, at councillor level, who are former Labour members and supporters who are already joining this party. In terms of parliamentarians, we are seeing more people coming towards us. But we are turning people down as well, because actually we're in a really strong position. This is not a retirement home for failed politicians. This is a party on the rise, on the ascendancy. And actually, I kind of, when I was sitting there today, thought, and you know, look, I've been there since the beginning. We were polling at 2-3%. I was deputy leader at that time. To be polling at 32-33%, I actually think we're an unstoppable force.
There we go. You heard it here first. Imminently, Dr. David Bull, you old tease. Labour defection soon. Dr. David Bull, thanks for joining us in the studio tonight. Always a pleasure. Nigel Nelson, superb. Playing more from you throughout the rest of the show. Now, coming up in just a moment's time.
I think we should just dwell on the fact that London is comparatively safe globally as well. That's because of the fantastic work we've done targeting the most dangerous criminals.
Yes, brand new data out today reveals that London's homicides, that's murders and manslaughters, have reached an 11-year low. Will reveal the true story that proves London is still broken. That's next.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, a matter of moments ago, the government opted for the nuclear option in its war with Elon Musk's platform X, regarding, of course, its controversial AI-generated sexually explicit images.
Today, I can announce to the House that this offence will be brought into force this week.
Let's remind ourselves the last institution to go after American social media firms and their big dollars was the European Union, and that resulted in visa bans, sanctions and a full-blown diplomatic row. So could this jeopardise the £31 billion US-UK tech prosperity deal that is currently on ice? We'll be discussing that in just a moment with Sir Toby Young. But first, he was the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, earlier on today on GB News, celebrating the fact that there is now a homicide in London twice every week.
This is fantastic news, isn't it? And of course, every case is a tragedy, and we do an amazing job supporting the families in those moments, and we solve 95% of those cases. I think we should just dwell on the fact that London is comparatively safe globally as well. There are cities like Paris or Milan or Toronto, their homicide rates are half as big again. Cities like New York or Brussels or Berlin are 3 times our rate. That's because of the fantastic work we've done targeting the most dangerous criminals.
Now, it is true that new figures have shown homicides are at an 11-year low in the nation's capital, but does this paint a full and accurate picture? Well, let's take a look at some of the other crime stats since Sadiq Khan became the Mayor of London, shall we? For starters, from 2016 to 2025, sex offences were up an incredible 66%, knife crime up 67%, violent crime up 41%, drug offences up 27%, and there's street theft, bag snatching, up an astonishing 180%. Well, to discuss these lies, damn lies and statistics, I'm now joined in the studio by the former Bedfordshire Police and Crime Commissioner for the Conservative Party, Festus Akinbusoye, and of course, it's GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson, on a Monday. Festus, always a pleasure to have your esteemed company. Sadiq Khan here spinning today's data on homicides. Do you think London is genuinely a safer place now?
Well, look, first of all, you've got to congratulate the officers who have done a fantastic job in helping to keep a tab on things here in London. However, it's all a matter of how you slice the data and where you start the slicing from. So if you start looking at data from when Sadiq Khan became Mayor of London in 2016 up until the present, it doesn't really paint a very rosy picture. But if you just look at the last quarter, the last year and a half or thereabouts, it's a little bit better. But where I would really urge caution to any mayor or chief constable is that data from a year does not really give you enough things to start jumping up and down about.
Yeah.
Let's look at the next year or two, especially knowing what we know now, that the Met, as of March this year, would have lost about 2,500 officers over the last 2 years. Who is going to plug that gap? You need the bodies on the ground, well, not the boots on the ground, to do the job. And who's going to do it with all that officers being down? Who knows?
Festus, it's also worth pointing out that when Sir Sadiq Khan as he was then, was running for office the first time round as mayor in 2016, he pledged to end stop and search, a policy he called institutionally racist. And guess what? Homicide is down now due to an increase of stop and search, a 20% increase as part of his violence reduction unit. So is it fair to point out that crime is only down because he's done a U-turn on stop and search?
I think, crime is probably going down because he's butting out of policing and letting the police to carry on and do their job. When you, as a person who's got the political oversight of a police force, you're actively discouraging your officers to do less of what is necessary to keep your people safe. You're bound to get problems. And so I think it's good that we're seeing more and more of this stop and search being done well by the fantastic officer we have here in the Met, and long may that continue. But like I said, there are some very, very dangerous headwinds coming along the line for Londoners, especially around the issues around the budget and the cost to the dogs policing. The parks policing has been scrapped. The officers who are going into the schools to work with the children, that's pretty much been removed entirely. This is going to be a serious problem over the next 12 months. So they will have to try and find a way to manage that risk much better.
And Fess, an incredible statistic that leapt out at me is that driven by moped-enabled street robberies and scooters are up an incredible 600%. Now, this is a new method of crime. It happens in a very concentrated part of London, around Oxford Street,
yes,
and
Westminster,
Westminster, where the tourists are. with the money. Are you convinced that, are you concerned, beg your pardon, that by focusing on top-line figures like homicide, important as they are, we're missing the broader trend?
And this is one thing that really, really bugs me, right? Look, the average Londoner is not going to see anyone getting killed. The average Londoner is very, very unlikely to to experience a homicide. But what are they most likely to experience? ASB, acquisitive crime, so like theft, for example, mobile phone theft. So London is now the Europe capital for phone snatching, right? So the things that people are most likely to experience are things that I really would like to see the mayor and the police force focusing more on. I hope they are doing so, but this constant banging on about homicides, which is a good thing that is going down, is just not the win that I think they think it is.
Festus, thank you for your time as ever. Nigel Nelson, let's get some thoughts from you. Does Festus have a point here by focusing on important things like homicide, which affects a tiny amount of people? Is the broader picture that people are experiencing an uptick? Rape is up 84% since Sadiq Khan became the mayor. Knife crime, 69%. You know, the types of crimes that affect much more people are still soaring. London still has a major crime problem.
Yeah, it does have a major crime problem, but the point here is, while we're all arguing about figures, is what these figures were today was to paint a picture of homicide in the capital. So now we've got the lowest number of homicides in 10 years. That should be applauded. These figures weren't taking in shoplifting, which I appreciate has gone up, phone thefts, pickpocketing. Well, we're talking about homicide. The figures they released today, the ONS figures that came out, were about homicide. So what we see now is that London, for every 100,000 people, 1.1 will be killed. That compares to 2.8 in New York. So when President Trump sort of goes on about how dangerous London is compared to an American city, these figures show that is complete nonsense. But we ought to concentrate on homicide, what the police have done, what Sadiq Khan has done to bring it down. If we start spreading it out and say, well, there's a whole host of crimes we can talk about. Of course there are. And there is more that needs to be done with those other crimes. But we're dealing with murder and manslaughter here.
Yeah, but the point is, by focusing on a narrow data tranche, which is admittedly very, very important, the vast majority of Londoners are much more likely to have their bags snatched, to be abused in the street, to be sexually harassed on the underground. That's up 50% in 1 year. There's still a lot of work for the Mayor of London to do. And to start banging on that London is suddenly some Labour utopia, I think it's completely missing the point, and the data proves it. Nigel Nelson, thank you very much. Festus, always a pleasure to have you in the studio. Thank you for your time there. Now, coming up next, very shortly.
Today, I can announce to the House that this offence will be brought into force this week.
This afternoon in Parliament, the Labour government has taken the astonishing choice of all-out nuclear war with the United States over X's controversial AI tool that can generate sexually explicit deepfakes. But the last time anybody went to war with Elon Musk, it didn't end well. Could get very expensive. That's next.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. On Tuesday, we'll see some unsettled weather across the western Med with some snow across the hills further east. So confirmation then of some outbreaks of rain on Tuesday across the Canaries, Madeira, parts of western Spain and Portugal. Mostly fine, as I say, across the central part of the Med there, certainly for Italy, 1 or 2 showers and some bright spells too, but a risk of snow certainly across the hills of Turkey. As for the coming few days, well, things generally quieten down, but we'll see further rain at times across western parts.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel. Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel. Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dawley. Now, the last time the government decided to pick a fight with Elon Musk, it really did not end well. And it all started with this.
Calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
And then it ended with this.
On the basis of what she's found, she says there should be a national inquiry. I've looked at her report. I've considered that material. I think she's right, and that's why there'll be a national inquiry.
Well, following what many have now called Bikini Gate, of course, that's where the ex-users have been requesting the AI tool Grok to undress women without their consent in artificially generated images. Ofcom today has launched an investigation into whether X is breaking the law. Well, here was the Labour Minister for Tech, Liz Kendall, pressing the nuclear button earlier on in Parliament.
Sharing intimate images without someone's consent or threatening to share them, including images of people in their underwear, is a criminal offence for individuals and for platforms. The Data Act, passed last year, made it a criminal offence to create or request the creation of non-consensual intimate images. And today, I can announce to the House that this offence will be brought into force this week.
And let's just remind ourselves that the last institution to go after American social media phones was the European Union, and that resulted in visa bans, sanctions and a full-blown diplomatic row. So could this latest move jeopardise even the £31 billion US-UK tech prosperity deal that is currently in ice and now perhaps under threat? I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by the director of the Free Speech Union, Lord Toby Young, as well, of course, as GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Lord Young, welcome to the studio. Pleasure to have your company. Do you think that this will end well? It seems extraordinary that the Labour Party is going for the throat of Elon Musk.
Well, there was an old phrase on Fleet Street, Martin, which is don't pick a fight with someone who buys ink by the barrel. And that was always a good rule of thumb for politicians, particularly prime ministers. Don't pick a fight with a newspaper proprietor because they buy ink by the barrel, and Elon Musk is the digital equivalent of someone who buys ink by the barrel, and when the government have picked fights with him before, it hasn't ended well. But trying to unpick Liz Kendall's statement in the House of Commons this afternoon, it isn't completely clear to me that she is actually picking a fight with Elon Musk, because what she said is that the government is going to accelerate the commencement of a law which got royal assent last year, which will make it a criminal offence to create or share an intimate image of a woman. It's already a criminal offence to create and share an intimate image of a child. They want to accelerate this law, making it a criminal offence to create or share, to request the creation of or share an intimate image of a woman, as defined under Section 66 of the Sexual Offences Act. That doesn't include, interestingly, that doesn't include creating or sharing an image of a woman in a bikini, unless the bikini is wet or see-through. But it would include creating or sharing a nude image of a woman without her consent. But the liability in this new law, which the government is accelerating the commencement of, falls entirely on the user, not the platform. So the person who could be prosecuted for asking Grok to create a nude image of a woman without that woman's consent is not Elon Musk. It would be the person asking Grok to create the image and then sharing the image. But what was interesting about today's announcement is it's not at present unlawful to request the creation of, to create or to share a non-consensual intimate image of a woman. So the government can't go after X or Grok for allowing that.
In Parliament today, Liz Kendall said platforms must be held accountable. The government expects Ofcom to set out a timeline, and it did say we'll use all the powers, the full powers of Parliament, to go for up to 10% of worldwide profits of the platforms. Now, 10% of Elon Musk's worldwide profit is $290 million per year. Now, I put it to you, if you start going after monetary value of American big tech companies, this will be an issue on Donald Trump's desk. You talk about owning ink. Donald Trump's got more ink than anybody on the planet to go for punitive measurements against our government.
Yes, I do think that the government is treading in a minefield here. As you said in your introduction, there is the US-UK tech trade deal, which has currently been put on ice precisely because Ofcom is threatening to take enforcement action, is in some cases taking enforcement action against US tech companies. And I think the critical issue, the reason the deal has been put on hold, is whether Ofcom's purview includes AIs like Grok. And if Ofcom is going to argue, if it's going to claim, and it's a grey area at the moment, but if it's going to say, yes, it falls within our regulatory purview to regulate AIs. So if Grok in future creates an image which in the UK it is illegal to create, then we will take enforcement action against X AI, the owner of Grok. Now, that's legally contentious. It's a grey area. But I think if Ofcom aggressively goes after, tries to take enforcement action against the owners of AIs, the US owners of AIs, the companies that own them, that would jeopardise that trade deal. It would also make it very difficult for Britain to hold on to its place as the number 3 in the world when it comes to the AI sector. Too much regulation of AI is going to jeopardise that standing in the international league table. And it's one of the few areas in which we can hope for some growth in the economy over the next few years. So I think the government needs to tread very carefully here.
Toby Young, very, very sobering words. Nigel Nelson, I put it to you, put to one side bikinis, mankinis, whatever it may be. Is this actually a broader broadside, if you like, on Elon Musk? And it's already been called a Russia-style ban by Donald Trump. J.D. Vance, the Trump regime, are always talking about the fact that you're more likely to be in prison for social media posts in Britain than in Russia. Is this really about AI, or is it a war against Elon Musk?
No, I think it's about AI. And what I'm surprised about is the idea that anyone can think that people profiting from the sexualised image of a child, maybe 11 years old,
it's not a
13
real
years
image,
old.
it's a fake image.
Some of these things are real images. This is the problem with it. This is why the nudification apps, so-called, were criminalised, because they simply took the clothes off a real person. This is something that Grok is doing as well. There have been real-life victims of this. So on the basis of that, it seems perfectly reasonable to say, this is wrong, we have to do something about it. Toby talks about the fact that at the moment it is the user who would be liable. It's quite right that Ofcom, the regulator, is now looking at making the platform liable. Now, how we go about doing that if they turn around and say no, it's not a matter.
Nigel, I'll put it to you. They're wasting a lot of political energy, a lot of capital on going after artificial images. The same government that blocked an inquiry into rape gangs. Why do they care about fake images and they don't care about real white working class women? They voted against a rape gang inquiry. Yeah. They're wasting their time faffing around with this. Solve real violence against women and girls by real people in the real world.
They're two different things. But these fake images are often of real people. That's the first thing. So what this is abuse. It is abuse against women and girls. It's the kind of thing that ought to be outlawed, is outlawed. And that's why the government wants to do something. Want to do something about it. Yeah, but you're making a comparison with a different failure.
No, I'm making a comparison.
You're absolutely right about grooming gangs.
Didn't give a toss about.
I agree.
And now they suddenly care about this.
Grooming gangs weren't dealt with the way they should have been right from the beginning. But we're talking here about what happens when young women are abused online, and this is what's going on here, and this is what we ought to try and stop.
OK, thank you very much there, Nigel Farage, and thank you, Lord Young. Sorry there if I use some inflammatory language. I do get a bit hot under the collar. Now, thank you very much. Coming up in just a moment's time.
It is British to be diverse. The next election is going to be about a question of what is it to be British? And I believe to be British is to be compassionate, reasonable, live and let live, and diverse.
Diversity, once again, is key to Keir Starmer, but in a moment's time we'll reveal the most comprehensive migrant crime research that has ever been conducted in the UK last year. 170,000 migrants were arrested, according to this bombshell study. That's one every 3 minutes. That's next.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Farage with me, Martin Daubney. Here's a reminder of the Prime Minister's thoughts on the next election.
It is British to be diverse. The next election is going to be about a question of what is it to be British? And I believe to be British is to be compassionate, reasonable, live and let live, and diverse.
Well, of course, according to Sir Keir Starmer, to be British is to be diverse. Well, the Prime Minister may come to regret those comments, not least because of this. Over the weekend, the Centre for Migration Control released its latest bombshell study, and get ready for the figures. In the last 12 months of available data in England and Wales, a foreign national was arrested every 3 minutes. Yes, you heard that right. Brand new analysis of police figures reveal there were 170,000 arrests of foreign nationals for alleged crimes in 2025, prompting calls for a Trump-style country red list. But does this once again prove diversity is not a strength after all? I'm joined now by the Research Director of the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Well, of course, as GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. And, of course, I'm joined by Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. State of the Nation is up next. Jacob, I'll come to you momentarily. First, Rob Bates, over to you. Eye-watering figures. Diversity is our strength. Not when it comes to arrests, it's not.
No, well, unfortunately, what we are seeing actually, and this is a problem that seems to be increasing year on year, is that the number of foreign nationals being arrested and actually being convicted when we do get our hands on Ministry of Justice data is always, without fail, over-representation of foreign nationals in certain crime statistics. I think what these figures show actually is that our border policy really isn't doing enough to filter out those that may be causing trouble when they get to this country. I think there's a lot more that actually can be done when it comes to conducting an immigration policy. If we are going to have our borders thrown open to the world and pursue this mass migration agenda, which I think most of the country don't want to happen, the very least that those making decisions could be doing is to making sure that we're not letting in those who mean us harm. So the Home Office, for instance, doesn't actually know how many visas it has awarded to people with previous criminal convictions. The Home Office doesn't require individuals that are applying for visas to produce a criminal record certificate, which is sort of equivalent of a DBS check of individuals applying for visas. There are so many loopholes that effectively mean that probably what we are seeing, especially with the numbers that have taken place over the last few years, is many thousands of people coming into this country that already have convictions that we know are problematic, and nothing seems to be taking place to address that problem. I think it's a real shame and a real failure of the political class in this country that we are just pursuing endless migration without actually thinking about the social consequences.
Rob Bates, one of the conclusions of your eye-popping report is that with 20 arrests every single hour of foreign nationals, 1 every 3 minutes, incredible, for crimes including murder, rape and rape gang offences, you're recommending a Trump-style red flag list. The nations we should potentially be thinking about banning or at least very heavily vetting before we allow them into the UK. Which nations?
I think it's inevitable we have to go down this route. So I think crime stats suggest, obviously, the likes of Afghanistan, Eritrea, that although they are small fry when it comes to the overall level of immigration from those countries. But I also think we need to start looking at countries such as Pakistan and Bangladesh, where we know that they are above the British rate when it comes to crime statistics. We also know that, for instance, that, some of the radicalisation that we are seeing on college campuses in large part comes from student visas given to those nationalities. And I just think we used to have a policy in this country up until 2020. The Home Office used to actually have a red list filter system for visa applications where it would treat individuals from certain countries with a little more level of sort of suspicion and require a few more checks to take take place. And I don't think actually introducing a red list system, despite the chorus of execration that we saw from left-wing people when Donald Trump introduced this idea, is in any way a bad route to go down. I think it would make sure that those coming into the country are only those that are going to be making an economic contribution, but also those that are more likely to play by the rules and to not cause problems when they are here.
Nigel Nelson, let's bring you in now. When you analyse the data here, and the data isn't racist, it's just data, if there is a propensity for foreign nationals to commit more crimes, might it not be a sensible idea to be much more rigorous of how we vet them and how we allow them in the first place?
Well, working through the vetting process, that criminal records are often very hard to get. That not every country has a criminal record system like ours, so that has posed a number of problems just simply getting hold of that kind of material. When it comes to restricting visas, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, is doing just that. She's starting to restrict visas. Only a couple of countries at the moment, but that could be expanded.
Small fry countries.
Yeah, I know, but it could be expanded.
Libya, Congo.
We have to start from somewhere, so that could be expanded. When it comes down to foreign criminals, they will be removed on conviction, whereas now they would serve 30% of their... That is the plan at the moment. As soon as the legislation could get through Parliament to go and do that. At the moment, it's gone down from 50% of sentence to 30%. The idea is that when they're convicted, they would go. And the other point to mention, really, is we've got 12 million foreign-born people in this country. The figures that Rob is mentioning relate to about 1.4% of those. So the majority of people who are living here are not criminals.
It doesn't matter that one's arrested every 3 minutes. There's only 170,000 crimes. Nothing to complain about, Rob.
I also think a big point that people need to realise at home is that currently we have 19,000 foreign national offenders who have served jail time for serious offences in the country that the Home Office, for various reasons, human rights applications, judicial review and so forth, have not been able to remove. And the result has been that those individuals at the end of their jail time have been released back into the very community where they committed their offence. And I think there's a massive need for us to address how those that have come to the country, committed really, really serious crimes against people, are able to stymie their deportation from the country.
So, Jacob Rees-Mogg, what's your take on this? Is it time for a red flag list of countries?
Oh, I think we should be robust. I think we need to look at what Donald Trump has done. There's huge concern about immigration. There's huge concern about crime from people who are in the country illegally. There's concern about overcrowding in prisons. If you deal with this, if you remove people who have no right to be in this country, you free up prison spaces, you reduce crime, and you go with the grain of the British public. And you make all the people who are here legally and are law-abiding feel safer and more comfortable in what has become their home, which is a point Shabana Mahmood made in relation to illegal immigration. You've got a wonderful statement from the Home Office, which begins with the lines, "We do not recognise these figures." Can I give away a secret as a former minister?
Yeah, go on.
When we said that, it might mean you're out by one. It doesn't mean that it's all nonsense. It is as close as you get to not telling the truth, let's put it that way, let's put it genteelly.
Well, how prophetic when you say a Home Office spokesperson told GB News this: "We do not recognise these figures. We will not allow foreign criminals and illegal migrants to exploit our laws. We are reforming human rights laws and replacing the broken appeal system so we can scale up deportations. All foreign national offenders who receive a prison sentence in the UK are referred for deportation at the earliest opportunity." So, Jacob Rees-Mogg, do you also detect there the slight whiff of a word salad?
Oh, yes, of course there is. They're banged to rights, they're embarrassed, and they're coming up with a non-denial denial.
OK, so Jacob Rees-Mogg, State of the Nation is up next. What's on your menu, sir?
Well, much as you've been talking about, free speech. That the government wants now to ban Twitter. It's found an excuse. It doesn't like Twitter because Twitter's rude about the government. The Conservatives, for some reason, want to stop 16-year-olds and under having access to social media, which I think is crazy policy. That should be a matter for parents. We don't want the state parenting our children. We want parents parenting our children. I can control on my mobile telephone the social media access of all of my children other than the 18-year-old. Quite rightly, he's 18. But it is possible for parents to do.
Can I quickly get your take on a story we've been covering today? The defection of Nadim Zahawi to Reform UK has been called a has-been by the Conservative Party. Presumably you don't share such uncharitable sentiment.
Oh, I've always had the highest regard for Nadim Zahawi, very successful businessman, extraordinary story. I mean, you know, fleeing Iraq, unable to speak a word of English, making a huge success of his career.
What about fleeing the Conservatives?
Well, I like to think of the grand Tory family that needs to come together, and I think Nadim is part of that. That Nadim and Nadine, who we mustn't confuse the two, but they've got very similar names, are good Tories, and they're now in Reform run the Conservative Party. as you know, I want to unite us.
OK, very, very good. Thank you very much, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. State of the Nation is up next. Rob Bates, superb as ever. Nigel Nelson, see you again on Wednesday. 3 hours of arguing. Thanks for joining me tonight. I'll be back tomorrow, 3 till 6 p.m. State of the Nation is up next. First, though, here's your weather forecast. Have a fantastic evening.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a mixed picture across the UK as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. Some places will see some mist and fog patches, other places having some outbreaks of rain. Although the area of low pressure, which has brought strong winds across northern parts through today, is now clearing, and so those winds are dropping out, we do have a front pushing in across parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, and later into parts of northern England and Wales, where we are going to see some wet weather at times. Staying mostly dry there across central southern England and Wales. Cloud building through the night, some low clouds, some mist quite possible, and actually staying quite mild here. Temperatures not dropping a huge amount. Markedly colder though across northern parts of Scotland where we have clear skies. As a result, a relatively harsh frost in some places, and also some icy stretches to watch out for. Could cause some problems on the roads first thing tomorrow morning. Otherwise, as we go through tomorrow morning, well, it's a bright, cold, icy start across northern Scotland, across western southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England and Wales. A wet start with that front pushing its way in, and then another front's coming up from the south, so it could be quite a bit of rain across southern counties as you're heading out the door tomorrow morning, and that rain then pushes its way northeastwards across much of central and eastern parts of southern England as well. Some of that rain could be quite heavy as we go through the day. It could cause some localised flooding in a few spots. That front towards the northwest also makes its way south and eastwards across other parts of England and Wales, with something a bit cooler coming in from the northwest. Not as cold as last week, but nonetheless a chillier feel compared to today. Then after a cold and quite widely frosty start to the day tomorrow, it is actually looking largely fine. Lots of bright sunny weather to be had through the bulk of the day, but there's another system coming in from the west, and that's going to bring some cloud and rain as we go later on. Now on Thursday there's a potential for a deep area of low pressure to push in, so that could bring some very strong winds and heavy rain.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number